The council chamber of the Galactic Dominion was built to intimidate. It wasn't just a room, it was a cathedral of power. Pillars of obsidian stretched upward into a dome alive with starlight projections, the constellations of 100 worlds swirling across the ceiling. Delegates from across the galaxy filled third rows, scaled, feathered, and chitinous creatures, each exuding their species' arrogance. And at the center of it all stood Earth's representative. Jack McConnell shifted in his boots, leather jacket creaking faintly as if mocking the pristine robes and glinting armor around him. He looked like he'd stumbled out of a bar fight into a parliament of gods. Gray in his beard, weather etched into his skin, he was no shining hero. And that was exactly why they'd sent him. Humanity, rumbled the presiding arbiter, a six-eyed being that resembled both insect and statue. Your admission to the Dominion is not guaranteed. You are a young race. You are untested. Snickers echoed through the chamber. A reptilian envoy leaned forward, rows of teeth flashing. Untested? Try primitive. They burn fuel in engines like cave dwellers. Their soldiers wear cloth and ballistic metal. They are children. Jack rubbed the bridge of his nose. He'd heard it all before. He'd heard worse in bars back home. But the laughter of 1,000 alien throats was different. It had a weight, like the whole galaxy leaning in just a spit in Earth's eye. From Earth's delegation table, a nervous diplomat cleared his throat. We, humanity, accept the conditions of the trial. Our champion will stand in combat, as your laws dictate. The arbiter's antennae twitched. So be it. Bring forth your warrior. The chamber's lights swung, and suddenly all eyes were on Jack. He felt the heat of their disdain pressing against him. He stepped forward, hands loose at his sides, jaw set. Commander Threxkael of the Zorvath Legion rose from his place, scales glinting bronze beneath the starry dome. The alien was enormous, his frame wrapped in armor etched with victories older than human civilization. His voice carried the practiced cruelty of a man who'd broken armies. This? Threxkael gestured with a clawed hand, laughter rolling out of him. This is what Earth sends. A mammal in animal hide? A scavenger? The chamber erupted. Hisses, screeches, and clicks rose in a chorus of ridicule. A few delegates mimicked the act of stumbling drunk, mocking Jack's plain posture. Others banged their armored chests, imitating strength Jack clearly lacked. Jack spat on the polished floor. The sound cut sharp in the laughter. Threxkael's slitted eyes narrowed. What say you, little human? Do you even understand where you are? Or are you as witless as the herd beasts you eat? Jack let the silence hang just long enough to sting. Then he grinned. I understand perfectly. You've got yourself a circus here. And I'm the main act. The laughter faltered. Not stopped, just shifted. A ripple of unease beneath the mockery. The arbiter's mandibles clicked. The trial begins at first light of Kepler 442b. No weapons beyond what the environment provides. Survival until submission or death. Victory determines humanity's place. Jack gave a mock salute. Sounds like a camping trip. I've been on worse. The chamber hissed again, offended by his levity. But Jack wasn't performing for them. He was thinking of Earth, the people back home watching this broadcast, half terrified, half hoping. He wasn't here to look like a hero. He was here to remind everyone that humans had teeth. As the session adjourned, Earth's diplomats crowded him. One whispered urgently, McConnell, for God's sake, don't antagonize them. You understand what's at stake. Jack shrugged. I understand exactly. You wanted a fighter who wouldn't fold. Guess what, you found one. Hours later, the transport ship descended through Kepler 442b's atmosphere. The planet stretched vast and untamed below, jungles draped in mist, rivers glittering like blades, beasts circling the treetops with wings wider than shuttles. The Dominion had chosen the battlefield well. It was alive. And dangerous. Jack sat alone in the drop chamber, checking the only gear he was allowed, a survival pack. Rope. Flint. A knife small enough to insult him. No guns. No armor. No comms. Just him and a wilderness that could chew up entire legions. The chamber door opened, and the roar of the crowd spilled in. The arena wasn't a coliseum. It was an orbital broadcast platform suspended above the wild terrain, where thousands of alien spectators could watch the trial unfold in real time. Rows upon rows of faces pressed against glass domes and hovering screens, waiting for the blood show. Jack stepped out, boots hitting the metallic ramp. The jeering hit him like a wave. Alien tongues hurled insults he didn't understand, but tone was universal. They expected him to die quick. They wanted him to. At the far end of the platform, Threx-KL appeared flanked by soldiers, ceremonial armor gleaming. He raised a claw, and the crowd silenced in obedience. This mammal, Threx-KL declared, his voice amplified through the arena, dares to stand in the trial. Watch as the wild consumes him. Watch as Earth learns its place. Jack rolled his shoulders, then raised his voice, unamplified but sharp enough to cut. Careful what you wish for, Scales. Sometimes the wild bites back. The alien crowd hissed, booed, and pounded their chests. Jack ignored them. He had no control over their opinion. But he had control over himself. The Arbiter's voice thundered again. Let the trial commence at dawn. Prepare your champion. Escorted to his drop pod, Jack leaned against the wall, staring out the viewport at the hostile paradise waiting below. His pulse was steady. He'd been in worse situations: Afghanistan valleys, frozen Alaskan nights, survival courses with recruits who couldn't tie a knot. He smirked. Primitive? Yeah. But primitive doesn't mean weak. And as the pod doors sealed shut, the first light of Kepler's sun crested the horizon. The pod slammed into the jungle with a jolt that rattled Jack's teeth. Dust and shattered foliage billowed through the cracked hatch as he shoved it open and stepped into heat and silence. The wilderness was alive around him, humid air thick with the screeches of unseen predators, insects buzzing like tiny saws, vines snaking down from trees that clawed at the sky. Every step felt watched. He adjusted the knife on his belt, adjusted the strap of his pack, and let the pod burn behind him. Above, the Dominion's orbital platforms floated like silent gods, cameras tracking his every move. He could feel the audience in his bones. Somewhere up there, Threx-KL was already sneering. All right, Jack muttered. Time to give them a show. He moved low, scanning terrain the way he'd once taught recruits in Alaska. Terrain was always the first weapon. The ground sloped toward a river, its banks muddy, dense with reeds. To his left, a ridge tangled with roots and stone outcrops. High ground, good for ambush. He logged it all, breathing slow, keeping his senses open. It didn't take long before the hunt came for him. A shriek split the air, followed by the heavy pounding of armored boots. From the treeline, 3 Zorvath warriors burst forward, scaled, towering, each armed with blades that shimmered with energy. They moved with the arrogance of predators certain of the kill. One laughed, a low growl rolling out of his chest. The mammal runs. The mammal dies. Jack didn't run. He slid behind a tree, forcing them to separate to flank him. Let them spread thin. That was the first mistake soldiers made in forests. They forgot the forest fought back. The first Zorvath lunged, blades slashing. Jack ducked, letting the strike carve bark, then drove his shoulder into the alien's gut. It was like ramming a wall. Pain flared down his arm, but momentum carried them both into the mud. The warrior snarled, blade raised. Jack grabbed a fistful of river muck and smashed it into the alien's eyes. The warrior roared, blinded. Jack jammed his knife up, not into the chest, too much armor, but into the joint where scales thinned at the neck. Hot black blood sprayed. The alien collapsed, thrashing. First blood, Jack hissed, though no one but the cameras heard. The other 2 warriors closed in. Their jeers were gone. Now they moved with focus, eyes locked, blades steady. Jack backed toward the reeds, heart hammering but mind cool. The taller of the 2 hissed. Clever animal. It dies slower. Jack grinned. You think I'm the animal? You've been hunting me 5 minutes. I've been hunting you since the drop. He'd laid the groundwork as soon as he saw the river. Now, as the aliens charged, his boot snapped against a buried vine snare he'd tied off moments earlier. The trap yanked tight, jerking one warrior off his feet and slamming him into the reeds. The river swallowed him with a splash, his armor dragging him down. The crowd above roared. Shock, disbelief. They hadn't expected improvisation. They hadn't expected tricks. The last warrior slowed, blade still raised, eyes darting to the reeds where his partner vanished. Jack circled, keeping distance, forcing the alien's nerves to unravel. You fight like vermin, the warrior spat. Jack crouched, knife ready. No. I fight to win. The alien lunged. Jack sidestepped, drove his elbow into the back of its skull, and shoved hard toward the ridge. The warrior stumbled, regained balance, and Jack hurled a fist-sized stone straight at his face. The crack of impact staggered him just long enough for Jack to close. Knife, joint, artery. The alien went down gurgling, black blood soaking the soil. Jack straightened, breath heaving, sweat dripping. His chest burned, ribs ached, but adrenaline kept him sharp. Above, the crowd thundered in a chorus of disbelief and anger. Some shrieked in outrage, others in awe. The broadcast lenses zoomed in on the human standing among three alien corpses with nothing but a knife and wit. Jack pointed upward, grinning at the cameras. You wanted a primitive fight? You got one. Minutes passed. The jungle quieted, as if even the beasts were pausing to watch. Jack dragged the bodies into the reeds, hiding them. Not out of respect, but strategy. Never leave evidence where it could spook the next group. He climbed the ridge, crouching low beneath tangled roots. From up here, he could see farther, mist curling through trees, a shadow moving against the sun. He froze. It wasn't an animal. It was a drone. Dominion observer craft, hovering silently, recording. They wanted close-up angles. Jack ignored it. Let them broadcast. Let the galaxy watch. He pulled water from his flask, drank slow, and whispered under his breath. Adapt, improvise, survive. Words drilled into him from the service, now etched into his marrow. The ground shook. Not footsteps. Stomps. Heavy, deliberate. Jack crawled forward and saw them. 5 more Zorvath warriors, larger, armored in heavier plating, moving with formation discipline. Elite soldiers. And at their center strode a familiar figure, Commander Threx KL himself, observing the field like a general inspecting livestock. Jack's grin faded. Already? He muttered. Guess word travels fast. He slid back down, heart pounding. This wasn't just a game anymore. Threx KL wasn't leaving it to subordinates. The commander wanted blood. Jack wiped sweat from his brow, tightened his grip on the knife. He didn't feel fear, not exactly. He felt the weight of the planet pressing in, the stakes of billions of human lives watching from light years away. All right, Commander, he whispered, eyes narrowing. If you're coming down here yourself, let's see if you can hunt better than your men. And in the canopy above, the first light dimmed as the sun slid behind thick clouds, plunging the jungle into shadow. The predator was now walking into the trap. The jungle darkened under the heavy clouds, the canopy swallowing daylight. Humidity pressed against Jack's skin, every breath thick with the scent of damp soil and blood. From his perch behind the ridge roots, he watched the Zorva squad advance. 5 warriors fanned out with military precision, armor gleaming, blades glowing faintly with energy charge. At their center walked Commander Threx KL. Taller than the rest, shoulders crowned with jagged crests, his movements carried the arrogance of a predator who had never lost a hunt. Jack studied them the way he'd studied elk in Alaska, patterns, spacing, blind spots. He counted the steps between each warrior, the way their formation shifted when terrain forced them apart. Discipline made them strong, but discipline was predictable. Predictable meant exploitable. He whispered to himself. Never fight the pack head-on. Make them chase shadows. Jack slipped down the ridge and into the undergrowth, moving silent as the jungle itself. He knelt by a broad leaf, slashed it with his knife, and smeared the sap across his skin. The sharp, pungent smell masked his scent. He grabbed a handful of mud and streaked it across his jacket, dulling the outline of his body. Above, drones whirred, broadcasting his every motion to billions of eyes. Let them watch. The Zorvath patrol paused near the riverbank. One sniffed the air, nostrils flaring. Threxkl raised a clawed hand, signaling a halt. His voice was a low growl that carried through the trees. He's near! I can smell the mammal's fear! Jack almost laughed. Fear was there, sure, but it wasn't blinding him. It was sharpening him. He reached for the vine he'd rigged earlier, tugged, and released. A deadfall of stones and branches cascaded from the ridge, crashing into the rear guard. One warrior collapsed instantly under the weight, armor dented, body twitching. The squad erupted into shouts. Blades flared, eyes scanning. Jack was already moving, slipping through the reeds, circling like a wolf. He picked up a jagged shard of stone, wrapped it in cloth from his pack, and hurled it from the shadows. It struck the second warrior's helmet, dazing him. Coward! One snarled. Face us! Jack's voice echoed from the foliage. Why? You're doing great killing yourselves. The crowd above roared at the audacity. On Dominion platforms, some jeered, some laughed, others hissed with outrage. But every eye stayed fixed on the human turning war into theater. Two warriors broke formation, charging into the undergrowth. Jack slid into a shallow ditch, heart pounding, letting them thunder past. He sprang up behind the slower one, wrapping an arm around its throat and jamming the knife under the chin joint. A wet choke, a spray of blood. The alien collapsed silently. The second warrior spun, catching only a glimpse of Jack vanishing deeper into the brush. Rage drove him forward. His blade carved branches but never found flesh. Then his foot sank into muck, Jack's pitfall, concealed under loose fronds. The warrior dropped waist deep, thrashing. Jack slammed a rock against his skull until the thrashing stopped. 3 down. 2 left. But Threxkl hadn't moved. He stood at the riverbank, watching calmly, claws flexing. His voice rolled low. You are clever, human. But tricks end. Face me. Jack wiped blood from his knife, eyes narrowing. Careful what you ask for. The duel began without ceremony. Threxkl lunged, blade flashing in a silver arc. Jack dove sideways, rolling through mud, barely escaping the cut. The commander's strength was monstrous. The blade sheared a tree trunk as if it were paper. Jack scrambled up, gasping. No direct fight. One hit would break him. He grabbed a vine, swung wide around the commander, and slashed at exposed tendons behind the knee joint. The knife bit shallow, not deep enough. Threxkl roared, backhanding Jack with a swipe that sent him crashing into the mud. Pain flared across his ribs. His vision blurred. He forced himself upright, coughing blood. Threxkl advanced, blade gleaming. Weak. Predictable. A beast that pretends to hunt. Jack spat blood. Funny. That's what your men thought too. He feigned a stumble backward toward the riverbank. Threxkl pressed, confidence swelling. Exactly what Jack wanted. At the edge of the bank, Jack reached down, fingers brushing the coil of vine he'd anchored earlier. With one last breath, he yanked hard. The snare tightened around Threxkl's ankle, pulling his balance. He crashed sideways, armor weighing him down, half his body plunging into the sucking mud. Jack pounced, knife flashing for the exposed throat. The commander's claws lashed out, catching Jack's forearm, tearing flesh. Pain screamed up his arm, but Jack drove the blade harder. Threxkl roared, jaws snapping, but the knife found the seam under the jawline. It slid deep, carving through muscle and artery. Black blood erupted, spraying across Jack's chest. Threxkl thrashed once, twice, then went still. His massive frame slumped into the mud, lifeless eyes staring at the canopy. Silence. Then the jungle itself seemed to exhale. Jack staggered back, chest heaving, vision swimming. His arm burned, ribs screamed, but he was alive. More than alive, he was standing over the corpse of a galactic warlord. Above, the arena platforms erupted. Some alien crowds screamed in fury, others in awe. Billions across star systems had witnessed a primitive human defeat a commander with nothing but mud, vines, and grit. Jack raised his knife to the sky, black blood dripping down his arm. His voice, hoarse but defiant, cut through the noise. Earth isn't prey. The broadcast caught it, echoing his words across 100 worlds. Hours later, as medics patched his wounds and diplomats swarmed, the Arbiter's decree thundered through the Dominion chamber. By victory in the trial, humanity earns its place among us. Let the record show, Earth stands unbroken. Jack leaned back on the stretcher, half smiling through pain. He'd come into this as a joke, the galaxy's punching bag. He left as proof that adaptability beats arrogance, that Earth's wildest warrior wasn't just a man, he was a warning. And somewhere in the silence between heartbeats, Jack thought of home. Of forests, rivers, and skies untouched by alien eyes. He hadn't fought for glory. He'd fought so no one would ever again call his people weak. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The wild bites back.